Okay, so here's how I would approach this problem. So here's a mock-up of the sample data that you provided. I just did some dummy data that's formatted similarly to your sample. So I would do 3 helper columns. This column is just going to just figure out if CRN occurs in the name here in the voucher. So the formula is simply find CRN in A2. If it's able to find it, this formula will return a value telling you what character it found it at. So in this case, it starts at character 1, so it's going to return 1. If it cannot find CRN, this function will return an error, which is why I use the if error. So essentially, if it can find CRN in the name, it will not be 0. If it cannot find CRN in the name, then the value will be 0. And I'm actually going to make this, if this is greater than 0, then 1 else 0. So in other words, in case CRN is somewhere inside instead of always at the left. So this will then always return a 1 if CRN is found in A2, if those letters are found. Otherwise, it's going to return a 0. Now, for this column, I'm going to actually modify this a bit. If I2 equals 1, then this, else nothing. Okay, so for the ones where it does say CRN, I'm taking the absolute value, so you're converting your negatives to your positives. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if this equals 0, then count if this, comma, this. Else 0. Now I'm going to say if all of that is greater than 1, then 1 else 0. So what I need to do here is make sure I have, like, for example, 198. Nope, and I've got something wrong, because that should have returned a result. Let's try this again. Equals count if this range, comma, this. I think these empty sets are throwing us off. Yep. Okay, so here's an example. This is not a CRN, but it is finding a match here. So I'm going to change this equals count if S, this, comma 0, comma, okay, equals if this equals 0, then count if this, comma, this, else 0. Then we're going to refine this just a little bit more. If this is greater than 0, then 1 else 0. In case there's more than one match, you don't want that to be a number greater than 1. So there you go. So here's a CRN negative 198. Here's a non-CRN that's a positive 198. So if I were to go down here and say 819, for example. So here is a CRN that's negative 819. Here's a non-CRN that's positive 819. And my helper column now shows me that this positive value matches a negative value for a row that had CRN in it. So this positive 819 matches a negative 819 for a row where there's a CRN. So then you can use this, and then you can either sort by that column so that they're all together. So here's all your ones that match a CRN, or you can filter, or then you could use that column for your conditional formatting. So for example, what you wanted to do was highlight this based on the results. So we can go here to conditional formatting, and I can say new rule, use a formula equals equals K2 equals 1. So if that formula is true, then it's going to apply whatever formatting we apply here. So we'll do a fill like this, for example. And then I'm just going to copy paste special formattings, and now you can see those two are highlighted for you. So I think using the helper columns, A, it makes the formulas easier, and B, it adds more utility because now you can easily sort and filter based on these, in addition to you can still do the highlighting that you asked about.